The night my father turned 70, he raised his champagne glass and gave my brother a $1 million villa. The room erupted in applause. Then my father looked toward me and said the words that would change our family forever. "She deserves absolutely nothing. She's a nobody. She never even built a career." People laughed. My brother Daniel smiled beside his wife Christine, while my mother nodded as if my father had simply stated an obvious fact. I stood near the back of the ballroom, holding my expression together. For 30 years, I had been the disappointing daughter. Daniel was the golden son. I was the one people compared him against. When he made varsity, my parents celebrated. When I won academic competitions, they barely noticed. When he graduated from our father's university, he received a car. When I earned a full scholarship across the country, my father gave me a handshake. Eventually, I stopped expecting them to see me. That night, I had not even been invited as an honored daughter. My mother had called 3 days earlier and told me to check the flowers and caterers, so I did what I had always done. I helped. I stayed invisible. Until a stranger walked through the ballroom doors. He was in his early 60s, silver-haired, wearing an expensive dark suit. He looked across the crowded room, ignored everyone at the head table, and walked directly toward me. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you Clara Whitmore?" I nodded. "My name is Thomas Harrington. I'm a senior editor with Forbes. I apologize for interrupting your family celebration, but I need to speak with you urgently." The room went quiet. My father stopped smiling. For the first time that evening, I saw something unexpected in his eyes. Fear. Thomas explained that Forbes had been investigating an anonymous real estate empire for months. Their investigation had led them to a holding company called Whitfield Properties. They believed I was connected to it. My father immediately stepped forward. "I think there's been a mistake," he said. "Clara has no business dealings with Forbes." Thomas looked at him calmly. "There's no mistake, Mr. Whitmore. I'm here specifically because of your daughter." Daniel joined us. "What exactly is this about?" Thomas answered carefully. "We're preparing an article for publication tomorrow morning. I need Miss Whitmore to confirm several high-stakes details before we go to print." My father's face tightened. "What has she done?" "Nothing," Thomas replied. "Quite the opposite." He looked at me. "Could we speak privately?" I led him to a small conference room. Once the door closed, Thomas opened a leather portfolio. "Miss Whitmore, I'll get straight to the point. Forbes has been investigating anonymous investors who have quietly accumulated significant real estate holdings over the last decade." He placed several documents on the table. "I want to confirm whether you are the beneficial owner of Whitfield Properties." I looked at the papers. There was no reason to deny it anymore. "Yes." Thomas nodded. "Our records indicate that Whitfield Properties currently controls approximately $1.2 billion in assets." I said nothing. He studied me for a moment. "I've profiled billionaires, executives, and major investors for 30 years. I've never seen anyone build something this large while remaining so completely invisible." I looked down at the documents. They showed everything my family had never bothered to ask about. Every property, every acquisition, every investment, every step of the empire I had built quietly while they assumed I was struggling. Thomas gave me 15 minutes to decide whether I wanted to comment. Before I could answer, the conference room door opened. My father stood there with my mother and Daniel. "Clara, what is going on?" I told him Forbes was preparing an article about my work. My father laughed. "Your work? What work?" His voice carried the same contempt it had in the ballroom. "Clara doesn't have a career. She's been drifting for years." Daniel nodded. "Whatever this is, we can fix it." I stared at them. "I haven't gotten myself into anything." "Then why is Forbes here?" my mother asked. Thomas stepped back into the room. "Because your daughter is the sole beneficial owner of Whitfield Properties." My father froze. Thomas continued. "A holding company with assets valued at approximately $1.2 billion. Nobody spoke. My father reached for one of the documents. His hands trembled slightly as he scanned the numbers. "That's impossible." "It's documented," Thomas replied. My mother stared at me. Daniel looked as though he had never seen me before. My father finally looked up. "Clara." "How?" I answered quietly. "Because you never asked." He stared at me. I continued. "You decided who I was when I was 12 years old. After that, everything I did was measured against Daniel. You saw what you wanted to see." My father opened his mouth. I stopped him. "You called me a nobody tonight in front of 100 people." His face went pale. "That wasn't a mistake. That was what you believed." Thomas cleared his throat. "We're running short on time. Do you want to comment on the article?" I looked at my family. Then I looked at the documents. "Publish it." Thomas nodded. "Any comment?" "No." He waited. "The documents speak for themselves." He packed his portfolio and left. The silence afterward was heavier than anything that had happened earlier. Christine finally spoke. How long have you been hiding this? I haven't been hiding it, she frowned. You let us think you were struggling. I never asked you to think anything. My father lowered himself into a chair. How did you build $1 billion company without us knowing? I looked at him. The same way anyone builds anything. One decision at a time. Daniel stepped forward. Clara, we didn't know. That's the problem. I stood. When was the last time you asked me what I was working on? He had no answer. When was the last time you cared enough to know? Still nothing. I stopped telling you things because you stopped listening. My mother reached for me. Clara, we never meant. Don't tell me what you meant. I stepped away. I know what you said. I know how you treated me. And I know what you believed about me. I walked toward the door. Tomorrow, everyone at this party will know the truth. I paused. I won't be explaining it for you. The next morning, the Forbes article went live at 6. By 7, my phone had hundreds of messages. By 8, major business networks were discussing the mysterious investor behind Whitfield Properties. By noon, the birthday party had become a footnote. The daughter Richard Whitmore had called a nobody was suddenly being described as one of the city's most successful private real estate investors. The irony was brutal. My father had spent decades teaching everyone that success was measured by status, money, and recognition. Now the world knew I had more of all three than he had ever imagined. My phone kept ringing. My mother called, then called again, then left messages. Clara, people are asking questions. Please call us. My father eventually left one too. Clara, this is ridiculous. You can't just disappear. We're your family. We deserve an explanation. I turned my phone off. I didn't owe them one. Over the next several days, journalists uncovered more about Whitfield Properties. They traced the company from its earliest acquisitions to its current portfolio. They interviewed tenants, contractors, property managers, and business partners. The picture that emerged was not of a reckless billionaire. It was of a careful investor who had built everything methodically. I had started small. I reinvested. I bought properties others ignored. I studied markets. I made mistakes and learned from them. While my family celebrated Daniel's promotions, I was building something they never bothered to understand. The most painful part wasn't that they had underestimated my wealth. It was that they had underestimated me. Daniel called me several days later. I answered. Clara, his voice sounded exhausted. We need to talk. About what? I don't understand how you did this. You weren't watching. That's not fair, isn't it? He became silent. When was the last time you asked me about my work? He couldn't answer. You were too busy being the golden son. I never thought of you that way. You didn't have to. Father did. Daniel sighed. Father is having a hard time. He should. He's embarrassed. He should have been embarrassed when he called me a nobody. Daniel said nothing. Then he asked quietly, Do you hate us? I thought about it. No. He sounded surprised. I don't hate you. Then what do you want? Nothing. That answer seemed to hurt him more than anger would have. I don't need anything from you anymore. I ended the call. The family consequences came without me planning them. My father's social circle became distant. Golf invitations disappeared. Business associates became careful. My mother withdrew from several social events. Daniel's position in the family company became complicated. People who had once treated him as the unquestioned heir now looked at him differently. Not because I had attacked them, because everyone had discovered that the family's judgment of me had been completely wrong. 2 weeks after the Forbes article, my mother came to my apartment. It was the same modest apartment my family had used for years as proof that I was unsuccessful. She looked around slowly. Clara, I don't know what to say, then don't. She sat down. Your father is devastated. That's not the same as being sorry. He never meant for things to become like this. They became like this because of years of choices. My mother wiped her eyes. Can we fix this? I looked at her. I don't know. Can we start over? Not today, she nodded. For once, she didn't argue. She left quietly. 3 weeks later, a major charity gala was held in the city. It was the kind of event my family had attended for years. Business leaders, community figures, wealthy donors, people who had laughed when my father called me a nobody. This time, I received an invitation through my corporate office. They didn't just want me there. They wanted me to speak. I accepted. My family had also planned to attend, but their tickets were returned. The official explanation was limited capacity. Everyone understood what it meant. When I arrived, conversations stopped for a moment. People who had ignored me for years suddenly wanted to shake my hand. I accepted their greetings politely. I didn't need their approval. I simply noticed how quickly the world had changed once it had numbers to attach to my name. Later that evening, I saw my family near the entrance. My father was arguing quietly with an event coordinator. My mother stood beside him. Daniel remained a few steps behind. They had apparently hoped to gain entry through old connections. But the world had moved on. My father saw me. Our eyes met. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then I turned away. Not because I was afraid of him, not because I wanted to punish him, because there was simply nothing left to say. I walked into the ballroom. When I spoke that night, I didn't mention my family. I didn't mention the birthday party. I didn't mention Forbes. I talked about affordable housing, responsible investment, and helping families build stable futures. The audience applauded. Afterward, the nonprofit director thanked me for years of support. I left through a side entrance. I didn't need the applause either. The next morning, I stood in my kitchen and watched the city wake up. 20 years earlier, I had looked at that same city from the window of my first small property and wondered how far I could go. Now the skyline was filled with buildings I had invested in. My business continued operating, my employees continued working, the properties continued generating revenue. Nothing about my real life had changed. Only the people who had ignored me had finally discovered it. A few days later, a formal letter arrived from my father. It was written on his company letterhead. The language was completely different from the man I had known. He wasn't commanding me to meet him. He was asking. He was requesting. For the first time, my father understood something he had never understood before. I had the power to say no. I read the letter once. Then I put it through the shredder, not because I wanted revenge, because I had nothing left to discuss. For 30 years, my family had defined me by what they thought I lacked. They had compared me, dismissed me, pitied me. And finally, they had called me a nobody in front of everyone they wanted to impress. But the truth had never needed their permission. I had built my life while they were busy judging it. I had succeeded while they were busy comparing me. And I had become someone they could no longer ignore. Not because I finally proved myself to them, because I finally stopped needing them to see me. They called me nothing, so I gave them exactly what they had always treated me as. Nothing they could control, nothing they could claim, nothing they could take. And for the first time in my life, being invisible to my family felt like freedom.